Tesla stock today had a bit of a decent day today, as yes, we did see some selling pressure in the opening of the bell, but afterwards we started seeing Tesla stock slowly move upwards. And this makes sense considering the fact that when we take a look at the 10-year treasury, we see that yes, it's still at these elevated levels, but we're currently seeing a bit of relief with the 10-year treasury yields kind of falling downwards. And as I often share on the channel, with the 10-year treasury falling downwards, well, that provides some relief for the overall market, as it kind of takes away the appetite for yields or investing in bonds for their yield. But I want to go ahead and talk about what we're actually seeing in the bond market and how there's still a lot of concern going on with the overall market, and especially with Tesla stock. So today we got news that the bonds have rallied after famous hedge fund manager Bill Ackman says his firm has closed its bonds short. Now, before we actually read this, it's actually important to understand the relationship between bonds and their yields. See, when bonds go down, their yields go up, and when bonds go up, their yields go down. And so here it says that bonds rallied and yields were falling on Monday after Pershing Square Holdings CEO Bill Ackman said his firm has closed its bearish bets against long-term bonds. Here we see that the 5-year treasury fell down to 4.8% on Monday. The 10-year was down to 4.8 after hitting a high of 5% earlier in the morning. And then the 30-year yield was down to 4.99% after hitting a high of 1.8% on Monday. And so here we see Bill Ackman quoted saying, "We covered our bonds short." He also said that there is too much risk in the world to remain short bonds at current long-term rates, and then says that the economy is slowing faster than recent data suggests. Now, there's two sections to really take away from here. See, where he says that the economy is slowing faster than recent data suggests, this means that from his opinion or his perspective on the global macroeconomic environment, things moving forward are far worse than what many are expecting or what many economists are extrapolating. And so this is a bit concerning. However, this is in sync with what I've been publicly saying here on YouTube, as well as what I've been privately saying to the Push and Profit private group. Now, it's important to understand that yes, when bonds start going upwards and yields start going downwards, that provides some relief to the markets. That's what we saw today. That's why we saw Tesla stock and the overall S&P 500 push up. This is good. But as we start seeing bonds slowly start pushing upwards, and if economic conditions, as I believe, continue to worsen, well, that means that more capital is likely to evade entering into the stock market, or pretty much get vacuumed from the stock market and get placed into treasuries like bonds. Because generally speaking, when there's a lot of animosity going on in the world and in the financial markets, bonds or treasuries are seen as a safe haven for investors, because of course, it's guaranteed that you're going to get these yields. And if we're seeing bond prices push upwards, well, then of course that's another incentive for investors to put capital there. And so what we're currently seeing is, yes, things are looking good in the short term, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's all uphill from here. In fact, if we go ahead and take a look at Tesla stock, yes, we do see a green candle. We see that there was some buying taking place after a lot of selling, especially close to the level that we've seen before. However, for me personally, I am not convinced that this is a level for me to add more into my long-term position for Tesla stock. And I know a lot of the Tesla bulls, they want to crucify me every time we talk about Tesla stock either going down or me not wanting to buy. But I want to remind you guys, yes, I am bullish on Tesla stock in the long term. However, I don't necessarily believe that right here, or I'm not entirely convinced that right here is when things go all time, start moving upwards. Again, I do believe we could continue to see some relief, but I still stand on my belief that going into 2024, we're going to see more pain for the overall market. And so for me right now, the appetite to invest in Tesla isn't necessarily there. Now, again, you could do whatever you see value in. You could disagree with what I say or what Bill Ackman says. I often say this all the time. You shouldn't do whatever market pundit says. You shouldn't just copy what Kathy Wood says or any other person on X.com or anyone on YouTube. You should only trade or invest in what you see value. But with that said, me personally, I am not adding yet into my long-term portfolio for Tesla, although we are seeing some buying pressure finally come in after a lot of selling pressure. Now, when taking a look at the overall S&P 500 index, we see ticker symbol SPX is actually holding up around this level of 4,200, which is good, right? We want to see this strength continue, and if it does continue, well, we could expect to see more relief actually taking place. However, again, I think this relief is still provisional, and it's not something that is going to be long-term. I don't think Tesla is going to be going into all-time highs just yet. But looking into some positives, we got this tweet from Elon Musk at 1:50 a.m. early today, and yes, for some odd reason, I am always up at these odd hours of the day, but we see that in this tweet, we have some positive news from Elon. See, he says, "I said we would advertise. We are doing so at a small scale and will do so at a larger scale as we figure what works best." Now, this tweet pretty much comes after a lot of the long-term Tesla bulls have pretty much been bullying Elon Musk on X.com saying, "Hey, bro, you need to start advertising your vehicles because a lot of people are unaware of how affordable Teslas are." And so it was pretty interesting to see Elon Musk make this tweet because we heard him say in the earnings call just a minute ago in the last earnings call for Q3 say that pretty much there's no point in advertising when people can't afford their vehicles. And so this is like a switch of tune that we were kind of getting. Now, I do believe that Elon Musk probably was having a bad day during that recent earnings call, as everyone agrees that was probably one of the worst earnings calls we ever got. And so we're getting this tune or this switch up with Elon Musk kind of saying, hey, yeah, I am saying we will advertise. I'm not saying we're going to completely not do it, but we're just doing it at a small scale, and once we figure it out, we're going to go ahead and scale that upwards. Now, this tweet was a response to another Tesla influencer over here just showing this diagram showing that, hey, yeah, there are a lot of people who probably don't want Teslas or can't afford Teslas, but in this green section over here, there's still a lot of individuals who would want to buy a Tesla if they were aware that they could afford one. And so what I'm saying is that this is definitely good news, especially because we need anything we can get as a Tesla bull for Tesla to position itself in whatever way possible to actually increase its demand for people buying Tesla vehicles, especially because we know that economically things are not looking good. I've been saying this for a while. In fact, I want you guys to look at this chart right over here. Now, according to Fitch Ratings, it shows that Americans are struggling to afford car payments. And it shows that the percentage of borrowers at least 60 days late on their car loans is at the highest on record. There's a lot of delinquencies for auto loans. Now, this makes sense, especially because for a while now on this channel, I've been saying the macro picture isn't good, especially if you're trying to buy a new car. Most people, they don't buy a car cash, right? That's just not the reality of things, right? People finance their vehicles, and right now, even with stellar credit, it's like around 8 to 9% to finance a vehicle. I mean, even myself, someone who has an 820 something credit score, it would still be 8% to finance a vehicle. It's unattractive to buy a new car, and that's someone with like good credit, right? Because I have a cousin who, of course, I don't want to put their business out there. They have bad credit, and their financing interest rate is at 13%. Just to finance I think it's a Honda, but the point is, if you have bad credit, there's no really incentive, or it's very unaffordable to actually get into a new vehicle. And so this is bad for the business of Tesla. And this is why, yeah, I'm bullish on Tesla in the long term, but economically, things are not looking good, which is why we need anything that Elon and Tesla can do to really help Tesla move past these challenging times. Now, real quick, before we move forward in this video, I heard a rumor that I'm not entirely sure it's true, but I want to go ahead and see and really test it out. And so I heard that there's an update for YouTube where now if a video creator says something like subscribe to my channel, that subscribe button gets lit up, and if you hit that subscribe button, it does a unique animation. Again, not sure if this is true, and this is for mobile users, so if you're watching me on a tablet or a TV, maybe it's not true, but if you are watching this video from a mobile device, consider subscribing to the channel and let me know if that animation is true. But with that said, I want to go ahead and hop into my laptop and really just take a look at Tesla stock from a technical perspective, as well as just look at the overall markets as well and talk about some additional topics that we have to be aware of. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop taking a look at Tesla stock, and today was a decent day, right? We had some selling pressure take place in the pre-markets, after hours, and opening bell, but but we bounced right up and we ended up closing relatively close to the close of the trading session prior. And so definitely good for Tesla. As I pointed out earlier, we're seeing the S&P 500 index kind of hold above this area right over here. If it breaks down below the $4,200 level, that's going to be a bit concerning, but I do believe that we may still have a bit more relief. Of course, that could change at any moment depending on the data that comes out. But speaking about the data, I want us to pay attention to what's going on this week. So relatively speaking, the first half of this week is slow. Today there was nothing. Tomorrow we get a few data points. Wednesday, new home sales. That's really more geared to the economy and real estate. I do talk about real estate on this channel. I'm also a licensed realtor as well. Do that mostly for friends and family. But if you guys are looking to buy or sell property, there's a link in the description below. I could help you guys out with that. Also, I don't mention this often, but if anyone's also trying to buy an investment property or a commercial property, I could help get you funded with capital necessary to make that purchase. I do have a team of lenders that could help you with that. Again, that's in the description, but that's not the point of this video. That's just showing you guys that we have a light week for the beginning of this week, but going into the second half, Thursday and Friday, right, the end of the week, we have a lot of data coming out. Now, most importantly is going to be GDP. Of course, we want to see how the economy is doing, but I want us to remember that even if we see signs that the economy may be holding up well now, I still believe that's provisional. It's not something that's going to last long. As we know, the leading economic index has been contracting, and a lot of the interest rates that have been hiked in last year still haven't really fully made its way into the economy. And so we still have more pain coming. And that's my belief. That's kind of what Bill Ackman is saying, and that's what a lot of fund managers are saying as well. Now, when we look at Friday, this is huge. For Friday, we have the PCE index, core PCE coming out. Now, it's important to pay attention to this, especially because this is on October 27th, and this is the last inflationary gauge that we get before the Feds make the decision on monetary policy. And so this is going to, it's going to have a huge influence on what they decide to do. So of course we're going to want to pay attention to that, but with that said, the beginning half of this week is a bit slow, and so we're going to want to pay attention more to the technicals, as there's not a lot of economic data or any updates on the fundamentals. But going into, let's actually take a look at TLT. For those of you guys that are part of the Push and Profit private group, which is basically a group where I share my daily trade ideas as well as share my ideas of the overall market, I called out TLT earlier in today. And TLT, if you guys don't know, that's an ETF for the 10 or 20 year, actually, it's the 20-year treasury bond, and it did fairly well. In fact, if you actually got the options of it, yeah, it's showing 47%, but if you actually look at the chart over here, and you look at like the beginning of the day, right, for the 23rd, these options went bonkers, right? They went up about 227% for today. So definitely a crazy trade idea. I also called out Apple. Let's go ahead and take a look at Apple. I talked about Apple getting short right over here. I took a scalp trade. I even let the Push and Profit private group know exactly when I was entering. I actually exited out, sorry, I said that improperly, but I exited out fairly quickly for a quick 12% gain. But we did see that Apple ended up falling even further down after getting rejected here. So again, if you want access to that Push and Profit private group, it's going to be the first link in the description below. But more importantly, looking at Tesla, as I stated in the beginning of this video, yeah, I do believe we may get relief, but I'm not convinced that it's all uphill from here. And I hate to say it, because you guys know, if you're familiar with the channel, I'm a long-term bull and I want Tesla to succeed. But right now, it does look like a bit of a challenge. We're kind of holding up around over here, which is it's kind of a support. Last time we bounced above from here, we got rejected over here in the past. And if you zoom out, it's actually an area where I would have to go further out, but there's no need to do that. But basically, it is a significant area from a technical perspective. We definitely want to be careful around over here, as we know there's very little volume relative to price. And when there's very little volume relative to price, that's where we see big movements, right? That's where we see massive swings up and down, because there's not a lot of transactions between buyers and sellers at these price levels. And so if buyers step in, well, pushes it up. If sellers step in, well, it pushes it down. That's why when we saw buying pressure last time around over here, Tesla pushed upwards. After we fell beneath the shelf over here, the shelf of volume relative to price, we saw Tesla amplify its selling pressure. And so still in a dangerous area for Tesla, and I'm honestly just not convinced. You guys let me know in the comment section below. Again, you guys are free to do whatever you guys please to do with Tesla in the long term. Yes, I'm bullish, but I'm gonna be holding out just for now, as I still want to see more data before I'm actually convinced to jump more or add more capital into Tesla. That's just my belief. But as far as shorting Tesla or trading Tesla, my short-term trading account, because I have a separate account where I trade, so far I'm up 127% for the month. I actually released a reel recently, or not a reel, that's Instagram, a short on this YouTube channel. I'm not really into making those short content. I'm trying to do this whole YouTube thing, right? It's not as easy, right? I'm not really a content creator. I'm really a trader first on YouTube. But anyways, with that said, I have a short piece of content just showing you guys the 127% gain for the month. And so if Tesla moves up, yeah, I'll go ahead and trade that upwards. If it falls down, I'll trade that down. Again, I'm very flexible in the trading account. Whatever the move is, I'll go ahead and follow whatever is going on. But we'll definitely have to see. The main thing right now is looking at the technicals. If we hold above here, okay, well, it looks good. But if we fall below, it's not going to be a good sign, right? But with that said, there's no need to make this video any much more longer than it needs to. Hopefully you guys found some value. I know we talked a little bit about the bond market, but it does relate to the overall stock market as well as Tesla. And with that said, I'll see you guys on this next video right over here. Or if you've seen that video, make sure to check out this video right over here. Take care, guys.